Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will share my, perfect. You can see my screen, just to corroborate. Perfect.
Yes.
So I will be talking today about the urticaria unmasked, exploring its frequent sidekicks and companions. So basically, we will be talking about comorbidities, what other diseases can usually have patients with urticaria. So, why doesn't it work? Yes. So there are a lot of diseases and group of diseases that have been also described with patients with urticaria. Most of these diseases were recollected from the CURE registry, which our patients have been filling up since 2015. Commonly are atopic disorders or allergies, autoimmune disorders, psychiatric disorders, cardiovascular problems, and also malignancies. And then by others are chronic infections like hepatitis B or other diseases. By chronic urticaria and atopic diseases, these are one of the most commonly reported comorbidities since they are really common. And we have the most common ones are asthma, allergic rhinitis, like when you have pollen allergies, atopic dermatitis, where you have eczema in your skin, which is also itchy and it's not that nice to have, and food allergies, like we said before. But it's not that the food allergy induces the urticaria, but it comes also, patients also have it. Then the other autoimmune disorders are also common. Then about 30% of the patients that develop an urticaria also develop an autoimmune disease, being the most common one, problems with the thyroids, like Hashimoto's disease, with a 50% of the patients. And also 2% of these urticaria patients develop more than 2 autoimmune diseases. And there is a big variability of diseases that could be here. Then we have chronic spontaneous urticaria with psychiatric disorders. These are really common. It happens in 1 out of 3 patients. The most common ones are problems to sleep, either to fall asleep because when the night comes and they come like in to relax, then they say, oh, now it starts the itch and I have to scratch and I cannot fall asleep because the itch is really active. Or some of the patients also say like, yeah, I can go to sleep perfect, but at 3 a.m. I will wake up just scratching myself because I'm full of wheals or I have an angioedema and I cannot sleep more than 3 hours. For this, there is not much information. We have also a project and we're working on it to get a little bit more of an insight why this happens. And also, like we just said about the anxiety and stress and depression is a cycle. No, we have a stress. The stress could be a trigger, but also the disease causes more stress, and we still cannot get out of it. The same thing happens with anxiety and depression, but other diseases are also related. Then we come to a cardiovascular disorder. This here is a little bit more tricky. The relationship with the urticaria is unclear, but we also did an analysis and we found out that about 35% of the patients develop a metabolic syndrome. And as you can see here on the graphics, you will see the green lights are patients that only have wheals. Then we have patients that only develop swellings, that's the blue lines, and patients that have both. And as you can see, hypertension is a little bit more common in patients that only have angioedema, and obesity is more common with patients that present both symptoms, wheals and angioedema. And then we have for diabetes, also the same. It's more common in men in these cases. These are the dotted lines, but we don't see a difference between the 3 groups. And the same for fat values, like cholesterol, high cholesterol. Then we also have a tricky or controversial, it's chronic urticaria with malignancies. The first description was in 1942, where they had a patient that had urticaria and also was diagnosed with a rectal carcinoma. They operated the patient, they took out the tumor, and a few days after, he didn't have any more urticaria. But if that was the trigger of his urticaria, we cannot say for sure. And then over the years in the literature, there were also other patients reported with also cancer on the thyroid. But despite all of this, the European Academy for Allergy and for Galen also says it's not common to do a screen for malignancy as a trigger for the urticaria. And like I said, for others, there is like chronic infections. And thank you very much for your time.